Welcome to Maxara. Tonight's case is classified as a broadcast intrusion. Status: unresolved. The following account is compiled from archived recordings, news reports, and reconstructed timelines. What you're about to hear is not an explanation. It's a record. This is the case of the Max Headroom broadcast signal intrusion. Chapter 1. The evening broadcast. November 22nd, 1987. A cold, clear Sunday night blanketed Chicago, its streets and buildings dimly lit under the muted sky. Inside homes scattered throughout the city, televisions glowed softly, focal points of quiet evenings spent in routine. At 9:14 p.m., the familiar routine of the WGN TV channel 99, o'clock news, was underway. The anchors spoke calmly, the steady cadence of news anchoring the night's atmosphere. Outside, the city's hum was faint, a distant mix of passing cars, the occasional siren, the whisper of wind through bare trees. Suddenly, the broadcast shifted. Viewers reported a sudden distortion on screen. The picture wavered, flickered, and became marred by static lines crawling across the screen. The audio, once clear and measured, was replaced by a high-pitched buzzing that seemed to grow louder, more insistent. The signal faltered and then dropped entirely, replaced by something wholly unexpected. On thousands of television screens, the news program vanished, replaced by an unfamiliar scene. A figure, seated casually but awkwardly, appeared framed against a backdrop of spinning corrugated metal sheets. The metal's rhythmic rotation cast ever-shifting shadows, creating an unsettling, hypnotic pattern. The figure wore a mask and dark sunglasses, an unmistakable likeness of Max Headroom, a fictional television character known for his glitchy, artificial persona. The mask hid all human features, and the figure's jerky, stilted movements seemed almost mechanical. No sound accompanied the image at first. Instead, a low electronic hiss filled the audio channel. The figure swayed gently from side to side, unmoving in expression but alive in presence. After approximately 25 to 30 seconds, the broadcast abruptly shifted back to normal. The news anchor appeared on screen once more, visibly unaware of the interruption. "Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I," he remarked, his voice steady but tinged with confusion. Viewers were left puzzled, some assuming a technical glitch, others unsettled by the invasion of their living rooms. But this was no mere glitch. It was a deliberate intrusion. Chapter 2. The Second Interruption. As the evening deepened, the city's stillness was again disrupted. Around 11:15 p.m., Chicago's PBS station aired an episode of Doctor Who titled Horror of Fang Rock. Midway through the broadcast, the screen flickered and went dark. Then, the same masked figure returned, seated against the rotating metal backdrop. This time, the intrusion lasted roughly 90 seconds, and the audio was present. The voice was electronically warped, stuttering and fragmenting unpredictably, layered with distortion. The figure spoke in broken phrases, mixing references to Chicago television personalities with slogans associated with Max Headroom's real-world advertising campaigns. Notably, Coca-Cola. The intruder even referenced WGN's call letters, making a cryptic nod to world's greatest newspaper. The significance of this remark remains unclear. The scene grew increasingly surreal. The figure held a soda can, an apparent allusion to commercialism and media consumption. Then, unexpectedly, a second figure entered the frame wielding a fly swatter. This person proceeded to spank the masked figure, an absurd and unexplained gesture that added to the broadcast's disjointed nature. The audio, though distorted, was not random noise. Beneath the static and warping, the intruder delivered a stream of fragmented phrases, some mocking, some obscure, some seemingly personal. He referenced Chicago sportscaster Chuck Swirsky, though the comment was garbled. To local viewers, the name would have been immediately recognizable. It suggested familiarity with regional media culture, possibly someone from the Chicago area. He then uttered the phrase, "Catch the wave." This was not accidental. "Catch the wave" had been a slogan associated with New Coke, Coca-Cola's controversial mid-1980s rebranding attempt. Yet, in the broadcast, the Max figure held what appeared to be a Pepsi can. Whether deliberate irony or spontaneous prop usage, the contradiction was striking. If intentional, it suggested parody, perhaps even mockery of corporate branding wars. He began humming the theme to Clutch Cargo, a 1950s animated television series known for its unusual animation style, where real human lips were superimposed onto cartoon faces. That detail, in hindsight, feels disturbingly appropriate. A masked face, artificial expression, human voice beneath something synthetic. The humming was off-key and brief, but deliberate enough to be recognizable to those familiar with the show. Then came the line, "I still see the X." The statement has never been conclusively interpreted. Some speculate it referenced a technical alignment marker used in television production, an X taped to a camera, lens, or monitor to guide positioning. Others argue it may have been an inside joke, or a reference lost to time. Moments later, the intruder added, "Your love is fading." The tone shifted here, less mocking, more theatrical. The phrase sounded rehearsed, as though lifted from song lyrics or improvised melodrama. No clear source has ever been confirmed. Perhaps most cryptic of all was the claim that he had created a masterpiece for the world newspaper nerds. The phrase "world's greatest newspaper" had long been associated with WGN. Its call letters derived from that slogan. To broadcast engineers and media insiders, the reference would have been unmistakable. This was not random babble. It was layered. Local references, advertising slogans, television nostalgia, station call sign jokes. The delivery oscillated between satire and incoherence, but the pattern suggests intentional collage rather than madness. The intruder was not attempting to communicate a coherent manifesto. He was performing disruption, and he knew exactly who was watching. Despite the bizarre content, the broadcast remained under the hijackers' control until the segment ended, after which normal programming resumed. No explanation followed, no claims of responsibility. The broadcast anomaly remained a mystery. Chapter 3. Technical Breakdown. To fully appreciate the nature of this intrusion, it is vital to understand the broadcast technologies of the time. In 1987, television signals were transmitted via analog microwave relay links, a system reliant on line-of-sight communication. These microwave towers, often perched atop tall buildings or hills, transmitted signals over the airwaves. The television studio's programming was sent through cables or microwave links to relay towers, which then beamed the signals to the broadcast antenna. The antenna transmitted the signal to television receivers throughout the viewing area. Each microwave link operated on a specific frequency and required clear line of sight between transmitting and receiving antennas. The system was meticulously regulated to avoid interference. However, this analog infrastructure was vulnerable to signal hijacking. An interfering transmission of sufficient power on the same frequency and within sight of the receiving antenna could override the legitimate broadcast. A high-powered microwave transmitter capable of matching or exceeding the station's signal strength. Precise knowledge of the frequencies and broadcast paths in use. Physical proximity to the broadcast relay towers. Careful timing and preparation. The act was not accidental, but a highly skilled, intentional operation. Engineers later noted that to override WGN's microwave link, the hijacker would have needed to position themselves within direct line of sight of the receiving antenna, likely atop a tall structure. Possibilities included high-rise rooftops, parking garages, industrial buildings, or even mobile broadcast vans retrofitted with custom microwave equipment. The transmitter would need sufficient wattage to overpower the legitimate feed without permanently damaging infrastructure. This was not the work of someone casually experimenting. It required planning, testing, rehearsal. The spinning metal background suggests an enclosed environment, perhaps a warehouse or industrial loft. The controlled lighting hints at preparation rather than spontaneity. Investigators believe the perpetrators likely conducted test transmissions prior to the event, possibly during off hours when fewer viewers would notice. No confirmed tests were ever publicly identified, but the precision implies practice. The fact that two separate stations were hijacked on the same night further implies coordination or intimate knowledge of broadcast infrastructure. Chapter 4. The investigation. Following the incidents, the Federal Communications Commission categorized the event as a criminal offense, an unauthorized interference with licensed broadcast signals. The FBI joined the investigation due to the potential national security implications of hijacked broadcasts. Station engineers, FCC officials, and federal agents collaborated to analyze signal paths, review video and audio archives, and attempt to trace the source of the transmissions. However, several factors hindered the investigation. The brevity of each intrusion limited real-time tracking capabilities. The intruder's signal appeared mobile or transient, disappearing before triangulation could be completed. The technology of the era lacked GPS or digital tracking, relying on manual signal triangulation with limited precision. Multiple theories were explored. Investigators interviewed station employees to consider insider involvement. Some speculated that amateur broadcast enthusiasts, known as signal pirates, might have executed the hijack. Others considered the possibility of local hacker groups or performance artists making a statement through unauthorized transmission. No conclusive leads emerged. No equipment was recovered. No individual or group claimed responsibility. The case faded from public attention but remains open in FCC archives as an unresolved broadcast anomaly. Chapter 5. Cultural and Historical Context. To fully grasp the significance of the Max Headroom broadcast intrusion, it is essential to place it within the cultural and technological landscape of the 1980s. This was a time when broadcast television was the dominant medium for news, entertainment, and cultural storytelling. Long before the internet, social media, or digital streaming platforms, television served as the primary gatekeeper of information. It shaped public perceptions, communities, and even social values. Families across the United States gathered around their television sets in the evenings, trusting the images and voices transmitted to them as reliable reflections of the world. The very notion that this medium could be suddenly and deliberately subverted was almost unthinkable. Broadcast television was considered sacred, institutional, and secure, a fixed point in daily life. Into this world entered Max Headroom, a fictional character born from the burgeoning digital age. originating from a British cyberpunk television movie in 1985. Max Headroom was portrayed as an artificial intelligence, an electronically generated persona characterized by his stuttering, glitch-infused speech and jerky movements. Though a creation of fiction, Max became a cultural icon, embodying the era's complex relationship with emerging technologies. His image was one of both fascination and unease. Max Headroom represented the promises and perils of an increasingly computerized future. He was a symbol of media saturation, technological advancement, and the growing intrusion of machines into everyday human life. The character's glitchy, fragmented style echoed fears about artificial intelligence's potential to disrupt human communication and culture. The Max Headroom broadcast intrusion did not occur in isolation. The 1980s were a decade marked by widespread technological anxiety and media paranoia. Personal computers were becoming more common. Cybernetics and hacking were entering public consciousness, often portrayed in popular culture as double-edged swords, tools of innovation, but also of subversion and threat. Against this backdrop, the broadcast hijacking tapped into deep-seated fears about losing control over the very systems that shaped reality. The idea that unseen forces could infiltrate trusted media channels without warning suggested vulnerabilities not just technical, but psychological and societal. Historically, broadcast piracy and signal hijacking were known phenomena, but remained relatively rare and mostly confined to small-scale or local incidents. Some broadcast pirates sought to transmit unauthorized content, music, or messages, while others merely tested technical limits. However, the Max Headroom incident stood apart for its timing, sophistication, and theatricality. Earlier examples of broadcast interference were often crude, accidental, or quickly resolved. The Max Headroom intrusion, by contrast, was a carefully orchestrated, live, and highly visible act that seized control of major television stations during prime time. It was a bold statement, whether prank, protest, or performance, that has since become legendary. The combination of a live, unannounced intrusion with the surreal and iconic figure of Max Headroom, paired with the utter lack of resolution or explanation, created a perfect storm of mystery and intrigue. It captured the public imagination and became a lasting piece of media folklore, a symbol of technological vulnerability and the unpredictable intersections between culture and technology. This incident remains a touchstone for discussions on the fragility of communication systems and the complexity of media trust in an increasingly digital world. Chapter 6: Theories and Speculations. The Max Headroom broadcast intrusion has since become a touchstone for discussions about media vulnerability, technology, and culture. Online forums, including Reddit, as well as broadcast history blogs, continue to debate the incident's origins and meaning. There's a theory that it could be a technical prank. Many view the event as a sophisticated prank by individuals fascinated with broadcast technology. The surreal visuals and fragmented content, combined with the choice of Max Headroom, a character emblematic of media glitch and artificiality, suggest a performance intended to disrupt and bewilder rather than communicate a direct message. Next is an insider knowledge. Given the technical skill required, some argue the perpetrator had insider access or professional training. A disgruntled or curious employee or a former engineer could have had the expertise and opportunity to acquire or rig transmission equipment. However, No evidence supports this definitively. It could also be an early hacktivism or media critique. Others interpret the broadcast as proto-hacktivism, a symbolic protest against corporate media control. Max Headroom, originally a satirical AI figure, may have been chosen deliberately as a symbol of media disruption and resistance. Or maybe it was just a local or personal joke. Certain references, such as call signs and media personalities, suggest a localized insider joke, comprehensible only to those familiar with Chicago's broadcast culture at the time. Last theory is that it could be a hidden coded messages. A small subset believes the broadcast contained coded messages intended for a select audience, obscured within the seemingly nonsensical phrases and actions. This remains speculative and unproven. Despite decades of speculation, none of these theories has been confirmed. The mystery endures. Chapter 7. The psychological effect. The Max Headroom broadcast intrusion resonates because it invaded a medium assumed to be secure, trusted, and institutional. In 1987, television was a central cultural pillar, predictable, controlled, and authoritative. For that medium to be breached live, without warning or explanation, unsettled viewers profoundly. It was as if a silent, unseen boundary had been crossed, an invasion into private homes through the very screens people relied upon for news and entertainment. Many who witnessed the event reported lingering discomfort. The sudden disruption created a cognitive dissonance, a moment when the ordinary became inexplicable. Online discussions reveal a blend of nostalgia, curiosity, and unease about how easily broadcasts could be overridden. For engineers, it was a technical anomaly. For broadcasters, a breach of control. For viewers, a challenge to trust itself. The performance contained no threats or demands. Its existence alone challenged assumptions of security and control within mass media. Final chapter: the questions that remain. Who orchestrated the hijacking? Was it the work of multiple individuals? Why select Max Headroom as the figurehead? Why target only 2 stations on the same night? Why never claim responsibility or explain the motives? The official record ends without answers. No suspect was charged. No motive was established. No confession was ever made. The Max Headroom broadcast signal intrusion remains a documented anomaly in television history, archived, unresolved, and persistent in collective memory. What you have just heard is a record. It is not an explanation. End of record.